I've got company today. I'm in a local woodland this morning. You can see behind me, it's lovely, lovely mixed woodland. Now, I'm no woodland photographer by any means. In fact, it's probably the environment I struggle in most in terms of compositions. But I thought I'd come down this morning and shoot some film on the panoramic camera. A little bit of a tree study. So I'm going to take a wander up, basically up behind me here. It's a path that goes up and around to the top of the woodland, looking down through. Got some nice sunlight streaming through at the moment. It's kind of backlighting some of the foliage in the trees. So it should look quite nice, hopefully. I'm searching for a nice composition. Now, there's been quite a bit of forestry work going on in these woods, and you can see down here the base of some of these trees. They've been cutting out all the dead wood, and they've just basically left it there, which it's not a problem, but for me it kind of makes things a little bit tricky because it doesn't look very attractive in the photograph. So I'm taking a wander up this path just to see if I can find a nice composition. The path itself is quite photogenic, but I think it's further down back that way. I'm going to take a wander up here first and see what I can find. It's quite dark up here as well. I always find with woodland that it's more about what not to include than what to include, if that makes sense. I find it's very busy, and you've got to try and hone in on something. Now I'm shooting with a panoramic camera, so kind of always like a challenge. That kind of changes things up a little bit. So I'm looking for something that's simple, but also has got some scope for trees, maybe this path. So I'm sure I'll find something in a minute. Okay, I found my shot. It's got this lovely little pathway that snakes through between the trees, at the base of the trees, and obviously I'm going to have a nice thin panoramic shot here. There are some dead trees at the bottom of a couple of trees over that side, but I'm not too worried about that. They're only on the edge of the frame, very barely visible. But this should look quite nice as a composition. So time to set up. Nice and quiet here this morning, barring the dog, of course. He's busy exploring. He's okay. It's nice here because there's no sheep for him to chase, so it's all good. Well, I'm not shooting bluebells. In fact, I haven't shot bluebells for years. I tend to think they're a bit kind of overdone now. So I'm going to be shooting some of this stuff this morning. Rollei infrared film. Now, there's a lot of talk online about this stuff. A lot of people say that you should shoot it at ISO 25, ISO 50, ISO 12, ISO 6. There's all kinds of debates out there. Well, I'm going to completely bypass all that and shoot it at the box speed, which is ISO 400. I'm then going to add a 720 nm infrared filter. Now, this is very similar to the R72. So really, if you look through it, you can see it's really dark red. Now, you allow between 5 and 6 stops for this filter. So obviously I'll measure the light at ISO 400, add the filter, and then compensate for this filter. And I've already loaded the film, because you need to ideally load it in subdued light. So I did that earlier in the van. So I'm going to get the scene composed. Now I have shot this stuff before, way back on my I had a 4x5 camera, So I shot it in sheet film. I'll put a link to the video at the end of this video for that. It's a very old video, so please take a look at that, see what you think. But yeah, I need to get composed now, get the shot set up, and then we can start measuring for light. I like to try and keep the camera as level as possible, obviously in horizontally, but also this way as well, vertically. So I use a double spirit level to try and get everything level, because the problem is if you tilt too far back or too far forward, the trees start to lean in. So hopefully this will help in reducing that. So I'm going to be shooting at f32 because there's a lot to keep into focus here, and there's two dominant trees on the left and right hand side of the frame. The problem is I need to focus on them. This is where I really could do with some shift, or ideally some swing, but unfortunately I don't have that option. I know that for this camera, Chroma now do a technical board, lens board, which gives you rise and fall and shift, but it doesn't offer swing, I don't think. But yeah, I could almost do to kind of swing the lens like you would do on a 4x5 camera, and then just adjust exposure a couple of times and get everything in focus. But so unfortunately I've got to focus on these two trees that are more dominant, and then use a small aperture and hope that it gives me depth of field. So f32, there we go. Close the shutter before I forget. So I'm going to add the 720 filter now, and obviously now that's on I won't be able to see anything through it, so lens is okay. So I'll load the film back up and take some meter readings. Now this is a very tricky scene to meter because we've got a lot of highlights and a lot of shadows. Now with infrared film, the highlights, they kind of bleed out anyway, so I'm not overly worried if some of them bleed out too much. There's a little bit of movement here as well, and this is going to create quite a long shutter speed, so I'm hoping to get a kind of a dreamy look to this. This is the plan. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to meter off a mid-tone. Now the mid-tone doesn't necessarily have to be in the shot. You can sort of look around the scene and find a mid-tone. There's some leaves directly ahead of me which look pretty good. Now, by doing a mid-tone reading, it should kind of balance up. There's not a lot of dark shadows here, but obviously the backs of the trees facing the camera are a lot darker than the highlights. So hopefully by taking a mid-tone reading, it should kind of balance things up a bit. So I found a nice mid-tone up in the canopy, which is kind of in between the highlights and shadows. Nicely lit as well, so it should give me a good base exposure, which is 1/8 of a second. So put this into bulb mode. Now 1/8 of a second, allow for the filter, so that's 1/8, quarter, half, 1, 2, 4 seconds. Now I know we're in reciprocity failure territory, so 4 seconds for this film actually equates to 8 seconds. So that's my first exposure, which is quite a long exposure, but it's kind of okay because this is what I was after, this kind of dreamy effect with a bit of movement in the leaves and the grasses in the foreground as well. Okay, see what that looks like. The dominant trees to the left and the right of the picture, with the pathway going through the middle, have kind of worked out just as I thought. It's kind of leads your eye through those woods. Overall compositioning, I'm quite pleased with this. It's a little bit dark exposure wise on the left and just over to the right hand side as well. And the IR effect has come through, but not as much as I wanted and not as much movement as I'd wanted. But overall, yeah, pleased with this first attempt. My yoke is easy, so come to me, all you weary. So my next exposure is going to be 24 seconds, which is with a base, that was a base reading of 8 seconds. Like I said, there's not a lot of wind here, but it's enough to kind of create that effect that I was after. And we should have some nice motion, obviously with the trees nice and static. Excellent. So this is much better, much more what I had in mind. The longer exposures created a good exposure across the frame, and it's also created more movement in the leaves, which is what I was after. I developed this film in normal chemicals that you'd use for a black and white film. The only difference is the developing temperature is 24 degrees instead of 20 degrees. I also add more Ilford 3 mix when I'm mixing up the development fluid. It produces quite thin negs, so scanning this was a bit tricky, but I normally scan it with in Silverfast with a HB5 format in Negafix, and I just clean it with the SRDX function within the software, which does a really good job. Now I have got a full spectrum infrared converted digital camera, and I've got to say this is a lot more difficult. Like I say, you're not you know, with the digital camera you're seeing the results straight away, but it kind of takes the fun out of it, I suppose. This is a little bit more, you never know what you're going to get. That's what I like about film photography. It's that kind of anticipation, that waiting for the results. But hopefully this should work out okay. I'm going to, I've got one more exposure to use up, so I might go the other way and slightly underexpose this time. This shorter exposure wasn't much different to my 8-second version. This was 4 seconds, so it's basically one stop darker. And you can see again the left and right hand side of the picture are a little bit underexposed, but it's not too bad overall. Now my last frame was kind of ruined as I had a bit of a problem unloading the film and managed somehow to crease the end of the film, so I had to waste that last frame, but pretty happy overall with the 3 shots that I got. But my favourite was the second shot, which was at 24 seconds. This frame basically shows that just by overexposing a bit, it's basically one stop overexposed, so I allowed 6 stops over for that filter that I used. Now, given that little bit more exposure intensifies that infrared effect and gives an overall better pleasing result, I think. Well, that's the end of the roll. I'm not going to take it out of the camera until I get back into the van, just in case. I've got a couple of rolls of this stuff, so I'm going to be out shooting with the Bronica, I think, as well, just to give it a go in the square format. Just kind of wondering whether I should have brought that with me this morning, but just fancied a bit of panoramic. So anyway, I'm going to get packed up. Please let me know what you think, and like I say, thanks for watching this one, and I hope to see you on the next one.